this articulation of how we've articulated the problem statement, the last click attribution, and the consumer journey. Why is it relevant is that it's affecting marketers' ability to make decisions, right? As these signals are weakening, you're not able to point your investment dollars towards where demand is being generated, right? It's kind of gotten weakened. Way back in 90s and early 2000s, when I grew up in search, for example, you could look at the attribution metrics and just say, hey, what's working, what's not working, and then just deploy dollars where it was working and away from dollars, take away dollars from keywords that are not working, right? It was kind of somewhat a straightforward process, straightforward in quotes, but you've lost the ability to do that because the numbers don't reflect consumer behavior anymore, and therefore you're not able to do that, right? Now, how do you describe that? What does it mean when it's not working? So let's take this toy problem here. Clearly, a lot of you might have a version of this problem. Imagine this particular brand is spending about $5 million overall, about 2.3 in Google, 1.7 in Meta, and 1.1 in Snap. I'm just making this up, right? Now, if you believed in the Google Analytics religion, and you say, hey, listen, I am a UTM guy. I believe in Google Analytics. UTM is how I've tracked my media all my life. That's what I believe in. Okay, if you look at that, what you'll say is that, well, Google has 365 CPA in this particular case, and Facebook has a $3,000 CPA, Snap has a $10,000 CPA. So clearly, if this is true, if these CPAs are true, then I should really take dollars out of Facebook and Snap, really spend all my dollars on Google. This is what you should do from a decisioning perspective, if you believe Google Analytics, right? On the other hand, if you believe self-attribution, if you say, hey, no, that's not true. Everybody in the world is making meta work, right? And a lot of people are making other mid-funnel channels like TikTok work and Snap work and Yelp work. So I can be very Google-centric, and CPMs or CPCs are through the roof. This makes no sense for me to be so allocated on Google. I have to distribute, but I'm going to look at self-attribution. If you look at self-attribution, Google is the most expensive CPA. Google is $561, Facebook's $330, and Snap is $325. You would allocate very differently. You would take dollars out of Google into Facebook and into Snap, right? Now you end up in very different decisions, very different media portfolios altogether, right? Depending on what data religion you believe in. If you believe in the Google Analytics measurement religion, your allocations are completely different. If you believe in the self-attribution religion, your allocations are completely different, right? Now, it's not that one is right, one is wrong. Honestly, there are marketers that I've worked with who are incredibly lower funnel focused. They believe in UTM and they only invest in channels that work on a UTM basis. That's fine. And you can absolutely live there, but you're going to limit your growth, right? You cannot really grow past search. You cannot grow past shopping. You're really focused on the Google ecosystem, and you have to live there forever, right? Now, on the other hand, if you are like, well, everybody's making Meta work, I'm going to invest in Meta, I'm going to believe in Meta's numbers. And then what happens, it gets squishy after a while. Initially, it's super strong when you're a really early brand. Every dollar you invest, you can see the Shopify revenue going up as you invest in Facebook. And you're like, okay, it's kind of working. I can see, even though numbers are not perfectly aligned, I can kind of see it's growing. After a while, they break. After a while, they're not connected one-to-one anymore. And you're like, it's kind of squishy. They are saying these guys have drove a lot more conversion than what I'm seeing in the back end. I'm not quite sure if I'm losing my shirt, I'm making money. It's clearly working, but not as well as they're articulating it from their last click metrics. Now, as you stack on more channels, it becomes more and more squishy. And now it becomes like, okay, I have no sense as to what's working, what's not working anymore, right? So there's meaning, then there is implications to what religion you believe in and where you end up as a result with respect to your ability to understand performance from data, okay? All right. Now, also, let's say, for example, you're not in this ecosystem, in this environment. Imagine about a year and a half back when everybody was investing and your CFO came to you and said, I don't care what you're doing. It seems to be working. The business is growing. Here's an additional $1 million. Go spend it. You don't know where to put it. You don't know what the marginal efficiency would I get. What is my CPA for the next $100,000? $1 million on Facebook versus Meta versus Google versus Snap. You can't tell anymore because the current attribution methodologies, last click attribution, cannot help you understand marginal efficiency very well. Okay, so two big problems. One is you don't know how to invest your current budgets. Second is you cannot really tell how to invest new budgets that you may end up having. Okay. So how do you solve this? Okay, this is the problem statement. You cannot spend your dollars efficiently that you have right now. If somebody comes back and gives you new dollars to spend or dollars to cut, where would you cut it? What's the marginal efficiency? You can't tell very, very effectively, right? Advanced attribution is the broad umbrella of techniques that provides you the tools and techniques to answer this particular problem statement. There are only two causal methods. Okay, it's an important kind of answer you want to take away with you from class, which is there are only two methods that are causal in all of the different techniques of attribution. One is marketing mix modeling. Second is incrementality testing. Those are the only two causal methods. All families of techniques kind of roll up into that, and we'll talk more about that. Different types of tests and different types of models and all that, they all roll up into these two family umbrella techniques. And those are the only two causal methods. As an example, multi-touch attribution is not causal. Okay, is a correlational method, still valuable. It's kind of an advancement on last click attribution. You can absolutely use it, just like how last click attribution is also something very useful. I will teach it in class as to how you can use it in combination with advanced attribution techniques like incrementality and marketing mix modeling. But they're not causal, right? So there are only two methods that are causal methods. And if you want to go towards a causal reporting framework for all of your marketing. So Jennifer, if you want to go back and talk to your finance lead and say, I spent $1 million on media and it drove $3 million in revenue or whatever it is, you have to be able to report them in causal terms. What is a causal relationship between dollars, media dollars and revenue dollars? And there are only two techniques that you really can rely on for doing that, okay? All right. Now, how do you do that? What is the approach for doing that? What is the answer? What is the magic? What is the cheat sheet? Well, this is the cheat sheet. Okay. If you want to take basically, print out one slide and stick it on your desk, well, this is the cheat sheet slide you want to stick it on your desk, right? Now, all techniques, be it incrementality testing or marketing mix modeling, is about measuring lifted conversions. What is the number of conversions or amount of conversions lifted because of the investment in that particular channel? I invested in Facebook, and because of that, last month I drove 2,600 conversions. I invested in Google, and because of that, I drove 4,500 conversions, and so on and so forth. You can measure that by any one of those techniques, marketing mix modeling or incrementality testing. But the purpose of either one of those things is to understand the contribution of media to revenue or profits or conversions or whatever business metrics you care about. Okay. Now, in this particular case, let's assume that these are all conversions, that using the same example we've been using. Facebook drove 2,600 conversions, Google drove 4,500 conversions, and Snap drove 1,200 conversions based on whatever techniques you used, whatever combination of techniques you used from a causal perspective. Now, how do you use it? Now that you've learned that, you ran a test, let's assume, and you learned this last month. These are last month's numbers, okay? How do you kind of use it? What you do is you bounce it against last click numbers. So I'm going to show you an example using Facebook here. If you go back, according to this particular thing over here, Facebook drove 5,400 conversions. Facebook's own last click reporting. You went and let's say you're using a 7-day click, 1-day view last click reporting on Facebook. You go pull the report from last month. It says, oh, you drove 5,400 conversions. Out of the 10,000 conversions Shopify is reporting, Facebook's drive 5,400. So it looks like it's amazing. It's driving more than 50% of your business. It's great. But when you run a test, an actual incrementality test, and comes back and says, well, Facebook actually only drove 2,600 conversions. So you don't get upset with Facebook, says, hey, Facebook, you're reporting all kind of like inflated numbers. You just say, thank you for reporting your numbers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce your numbers. I'm going to take 2,600 conversions divided by 5,600 conversions and calculate what I call a multiplier. Okay. So the incremental percentage of conversions against last click is 48%. So 48% becomes the multiplier. So the word multiplier you're going to hear over and over again in class. And now every time Facebook reports any conversions, you can attach a number 0.48 to it, multiply by 0.48, and you can report the causal impact of Facebook to your business. Okay. Now, you just ran the test once, and you can choose to run the test multiple times. You can run it like 3 times a year, 4 times a year, maybe just once a year, depending on how important it is. You can use a test for measuring the conversions sometimes, and you can use media mix model to kind of estimate it other times. You can use a combination of techniques, but every time you run it, you kind of understand this number, the contribution number, and then you just get a multiplier by bouncing it against Facebook's own reporting. Now you keep just updating the multipliers as you go, and you maintain a system of multipliers. I don't know if you're here. I missed that slide. Okay. You maintain a system of multipliers for all the different channels. And that's how you can make this operational for yourself, right? And you do the same thing for Google. You do the same thing for Snap, other channels you have. You maintain a system of multipliers, a table of multipliers in the back end that allows you to take last click reporting, bounce it against multipliers, and report the causal impact for business on an ongoing basis, right? And we're going to actually, one of the classes, either next class or the Wednesday class, will actually show you what the reporting looks like, okay? Now, the beautiful thing about multipliers is that you can attach it to either self-reported numbers, or you can use it against UTM or Google Analytics numbers, right? Like, for example, a lot of times when I work with the brands, they have, especially data forward brands, have invested about 5 years, 8 years into UTM attribution. So they put UTM codes, have really trafficked it well, they capture the UTM codes, they're reporting UTM attribution. They're like, dude, I cannot abandon my UTM attribution, go to platform attribution all of a sudden. It doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't matter. You can take your absolute contribution that you measured using causal techniques, and you can attach multipliers to UTM attribution or Google Analytics attribution. Same concept applies. Now, a lot of clients will end up using UTM attribution for Google and platform attribution for Facebook, and use sort of a heterogeneous approach for attaching or anchoring multipliers and reporting causal conversions, right? At the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to have reporting that kind of represents this. That says, out of the 10,000 conversions we drove, so much was driven by Facebook, so much was driven by Google, so much was driven by Snap, and there was a bunch of baseline. A baseline is conversions that just walked in the door, perhaps had no impact on media. Media did not drive that. Is that the conversions that are happening independent of media's impact on the business, right? Now, if you're a small business, if you're an emerging brand, this will be a small number. This will be like, 15%, 20%. Okay. If you're especially talking about new customer acquisition, if you're a small DTC brand, you expect this to be, 10, 20, 30%. If you're a big brand, if you're Amex or AT&T or a Verizon, whatnot, this baseline will be 95%, right? Majority of your business is just going to walk in the door independent of media, but it's a much bigger business. It's a $100 billion business. Even a 5% contribution of media is $5 billion in revenue. So it's still a very valuable contribution that media is driving for the business. But overall, the big 95% of the business is going to just continue to move independent of media, right? Now, that's where a lot of the challenges as to how measurement gets calibrated for brand A versus brand B, because media's impact is very different. The way to measure them are very much different based on what the situation is for the particular brand and the particular channel you're working with. Okay, let me pause right there. Questions?